we are facing it's the first moment of the collective loss of control. I mean, worldwide, in every nation, in every culture, there has been a total loss of control. A tweet is not going to stop this virus. The central banks bailing it out, the finance ministries bailing everybody out, putting money into people's hands, not going to stop the virus. It's a real scary time, and the key part of it is that we've lost control. We think we've been able to control this world. We got a bit of a shock with the financial crisis 10 years ago, but hey, we came through it, and now we realize actually this is very real. People are dying. People's businesses are sort of upended. This is very difficult.
And as you are navigating, like maybe you could just, where are you leading in this moment? Because I know you have a massive influence. And so like there's different pockets because you work in different industries, not just the church. So do you want to just speak to how you're helping people navigate everything from the finances to the fear? I have some specific questions, but I want to just generally, where are you?
I wish. It's tough. It's just tough. I mean, there's no way of, the fact of the matter is we're in grief. The world is grieving. It's grieving what was so good and was looking so good until motto, MOTS, more of the same. Things are going up, stock markets are good, churches are growing, programs are going. And then all of a sudden, out of a clear blue sky, we didn't pay any attention to it. Suddenly, there's from the heavens is a cry of stop, just stop. And, the grief of losing, on the one hand, what was so good, and of losing what we thought would be the trajectory, which appeared so good, has created that sort of sense of, at the bottom of your stomach, in the early hours of the morning when you wake up, we're scared. And that's a global phenomenon.
Are you
a group of pastors today in South Africa? Same thing. There's nowhere that stands apart from this. So, we've got to get real. We've got to face the reality of this. This is a serious pandemic.
And are you helping leaders in your relationships? Are you helping them recognize the grief? And what are you doing with that grief? I think this is interesting. I love your take on this because I feel like it's not something in the West we're really good at. And in fact, I was just talking to a friend who was like a really successful business guy, and like he's lost a chunk of his income, and he's trying to like build something else and like now do something else rather than like pause, hold up. This is called grief. You need to slow down and process this. What are you doing for that and helping people understand that?
Well, I think the first thing is actually to come to terms with it yourself. That's the most difficult, because basically when things are going quite well, the ego gets ahead of itself and it runs, and we kind of confuse what our egos are driving us towards, our programs, our processes, for the person that called us in the first place, and we use him to baptize what we're doing until such time as the whole thing stops. And then you have to look to your inside and find the ego doesn't have its anchor.
Yes.
And therefore so much of being driven, so much of being pushed has actually come from me rather than from, God. Now, of course, it's difficult for people in the church because then it looks as if, obviously, where you're working hard for great needs to satisfy the needs of people and nation, it looks good. And yes, of course it's good. But sometimes it was, we were being pushed ahead. And now's the time when I sense, the Lord says, stop, just stop, reboot, just reset.
Yeah.
To what this gig's all about.
Say that again, that idea that for many of us, we have been you were saying baptizing what we're doing.
Yeah,
What was that?
you kind of say, I've got a new program, Lord, come get on board.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
And, sort of, and in his grace, he sort of, well, yeah, okay. And then we start working out the difficulty is that we can't keep ourselves together. And we don't realize that. Masses of people are burnt out. I mean, what I was saying to guys is we live in this spectrum between broadband and burnout.
Wow.
And just recently, we've just gone onto the burnout side.
Yeah.
And God is calling us to stop. However, what has happened is, particularly for church leaders, they've just gone into overdrive.
Yeah.
Believing that it's the reinvention of a digital world.
Yeah.
But actually, they haven't come to terms with the central fact is it's not whether you can put yourself online. Yeah. It's whether you can understand that there is an entire digital change, a cultural change that we have not yet seen. We're only beginning to see the beginnings of it. It's not whether you're capable of producing an online service.
Yes. Okay. I want to talk about this. So I've been saying this and I totally agree. I feel like this is the world has changed overnight, and it's not, hey guys, let's get our church online and then eventually we'll get back to doing church the way it was. You're saying, no. There is a complete cultural shift, and it's not about just getting church online. It's recognizing the world has changed and there's the new way of being and doing church moving forward. Whether or not we go back to the way it was, it will never be the way it was. What are you seeing? What do you mean by that?
Well, in the words of a famous Irish poet, Michael O'Shell, do not look for this year's birds in last year's nests. You have to make sure that you don't go back and look at what happened and what worked last time round, and think that the birds that you've got that are going to be in this year's nest are exactly tweaked here, tweaked there, going to be the same as they were last year. They aren't. The entire society is changing in front of our eyes. We don't know. Ecclesiastes 7, I'm sure you'll know perfectly well, as you know your Bible so well now. Ecclesiastes 7 says, keep sowing, because you don't know which seed is going to take, whether it's this one or that one or both. And that's where we're at. We don't know where we're at. But what we do know is that this is requiring a very different form of leadership to be able to shape us through this.
Speak to that. What leadership do you see is needed right now? And what's needed now? What's changed? What do you see has changed? Like, okay, that's going to be done. But what do you see emerging, if you could speculate, emerging as a future leader moving forward?
Well, in my view, the critical piece is going to be, we talk about different aspects of leadership, and churches have still managed to run the command and control system. And nobody in the world believes in. It's already moved on from that, but still the churches were holding on to this rather powerful person at the center, sort of handing things down. But actually, that model won't work. It didn't work then, and it's not going to work now. And the absolute key attribute of the leader that will emerge strong from this crisis is flexibility. The ability to read what's going on, like the sons of Issachar, read what's going on, and then to be able to act and to step in. And if you're still thinking that this year's birds look like last year's birds, and they chirp a little louder, you've got a problem coming, because many churches, many cathedrals in England, dioceses in England are going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
And churches are going to go under.
Yeah.
Why should we be different from the world? There are many businesses that will go under. And we need to rethink, what we're about.
So, okay, one characteristic. So I was maybe a week into everything shutting down in Southern California, and we're having some issues with staff because we're, for us, we've never live streamed, nothing online other than podcasts, but it was it's so funny. It was like we went from doing what we've been doing for 2,000 years, meeting in homes, meeting in gathering spaces, to having to change that, right? And now become experts at something we've never done, cropping videos that were pre-recorded or live streamed, and we are making decisions like all of our roles had to change around this new church. And I had foreseen what was coming, a little, like a glimmer before it happened, and we were making these shifts along the way, and then we'd set things into place, and then literally a day later something else would happen, we have to change. So I told our staff, our new mantra is "Blessed are the flexible." That is, I was like, we are living this beatitude out. Blessed are the flexible, because we have to recognize, like, you're going to build something and then we're not going to use it, and we were going to. Yeah. And so I love what you said. I totally agree. What else do you see? Give me more of your.
It's remarkable to have seen it in advance. I mean, it is remarkable. I'm not surprised at it. Not sure that I like you all that much for not telling me. But, I think
it was lucky.
I don't know.
God's grace.
Sometimes, well, yeah. But sometimes you've sown deeply into your community for a long period of time. I know that. And therefore, it's not surprising that you're now reaping a very different harvest.
Yeah.
Because one thing is for sure, you're not looking at this year's nests, looking at this year's birds in last year's nest. You've changed completely already and in advance.
Yeah.
But even you don't know how this is going to pan out.
No.
So the important thing, I mean, I think that we have to take the moment. First thing is to take and seize the moment and believe that it's the right moment to act. That requires discernment and judgment. And in my view, this is the moment. I think, secondly, you have to be able to articulate a plan for people that enables them both to see the seriousness and face the moment, but also to understand the movement, that there is both a movement and a movement that will connect worldwide, I would hope, of God doing something very different in our lives. And I to find another aim, I'm thinking aloud, just like you, sort of being a preacher.
You're doing amazing. I'm taking notes. I'm like, wait, I need to use this because this is so good.
We need just to mess with your head. We need momentum.
Yeah,
that momentum is coming. I mean, this is because what is happening is for the first time. Think about it. For the first time, the church has an opportunity to, without any gigs going on, without any sporting events, without any entertainment worldwide going on, the church has an opportunity to get the good news out of the building and into where the people are at. And a new sacrament has appeared, which is the home.
Yes.
The home is becoming a sort of place where things happen, where you invite people together. I mean, after all, that's what we've been doing when we're not religious. For most of our lives, we invite mates in, we have a drink, we watch the football, we do things together. And the home is now becoming an amazing place. Now, don't get me wrong, of course I believe in people gathering together.
Yeah.
But from the world's point of view, from the people who don't believe what we believe, from their point of view, the fact of the matter is what we're doing is we're saying something very different. We're saying, I'm going to come to you with some good news, rather than, hey, you the unwashed, you come to me in my building, I'll wash you.
Yes.
And guess what? We never succeeded.
Wow. So you're nailing it. I mean, so you're seeing, it's really, this is really why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like you carry such a unique perspective, and you're clearly wise. You are a seasoned leader, and you're very, like, I've read your books, and your most recent one is great. And I love it. And I love the things you're saying in your Instagram, and all the ways that you're leading us and giving us lessons in leadership in the crisis. But I think there's something about naming this, like God is doing something in this moment. It's going to lead to a new movement, and it will carry momentum. And that momentum is something that you named. And I've been naming it I didn't name it this way, but you said it even better than I've ever imagined. Like there's a new sacrament, and that's the home. And what I've been saying is for what we've been working. So when we started our first, live stream, I'm like, wow, isn't it interesting that we've always said the movement of God wants to invade ordinary space. Like we want to move outside of the artificial public gatherings to following God wherever we are, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our cities. And right now, that is the only place that we can actually do it. We can only do it we're in quarantine. We're physically isolated, and social distancing is a practice. And now the only place we can learn to encounter God is where we live our everyday ordinary life, with our kids running around, with our spouses as we argue or deal with the tensions that are building up, or with our roommates. And is it like God might want to use that as the sacrament where his indwelling, his dwelling place becomes fully alive? And it's not these bright light fog machine worship environments, nothing wrong with those things, but actually just the simplicity of your home, where you learn to cultivate that same type of environment. I think that's amazing. I think, man, I hope we don't lose that. And being able to take the message there, like I know, Easter shut down as far as public gatherings globally, it seems like. And perhaps we might have the greatest evangelistic opportunity than we've ever had before, as people will live stream in their homes, and I think, who knows what God's going to do, but I think that's amazing.
Well, they put him in a tomb, Joseph of
yes.
of Arimathea. They sealed him in a tomb. He was in quarantine. He was shut up. But resurrection came. And it is always the Spirit of God that creates within us the element of looking forward to something that is now not yet fully understood, but which leaps forward. And which, as it leaps forward, it actually reminds us that there is something coming. Because if you think about it, the message of my new friend Joe, and get to know Joe, Joe's a great guy, is that it's acting when you don't know how the story ends. I mean, that's the key. And that's called faith, amongst the theologians. But for me, it's acting. Joseph took this body down from the cross in his hands into his tomb, and he didn't know how the story was going to end. All he had was, a Messiah of Israel dead, all the resurrections dead, the preaching dead. There was the hope dead, and that's what so many people are feeling at the moment. My business dead, my entrepreneurial creative venture I was doing dead. My finances dead or gone. I mean, these are, but there was in that silent Saturday, which is where Joseph was, a deep spirituality. There are times, and every Christian leader, every Christian will go through a time in which you think God is nowhere to be seen. The great activities of Friday and the sort of excitement of celebration Sunday, and there is silent Saturday. How do we cope? What about, you don't have to be Simon and Garfunkel to be thinking of the sounds of silence. They are very different, these sounds.
Wow.
You look at London, it's eerie. It's so quiet. And that is when God, of course, speaks. And that's what he's doing now. He's rewiring individuals. He's saying it's all right to self-invest, to read your Bible, to listen to worship, to analyze the worship songs, to read, to meditate and reflect and journal and deal with your soul.
This is such a good picture of where we are as people globally. The silent Saturday. I mean, I think that's it. Like, literally, death has come to thousands of people across the globe with coronavirus. There's million plus infected, and there's crisis moving across the landscape of the world, and the lives that we had have died. It is dead. I think that's a brilliant way of looking at it. And like, what we're grieving in this time is that loss and that change, and the million different losses of change, from working out and having a coffee shop routine to our jobs or our careers or our dreams. Yeah.
Social engagement, dead. Physical
Yes.
contact with people,
Yes.
dead. Um,
Yeah. Especially for extroverts. Us extroverts are like, this is.
Nirvana is an introvert.
I know. But then we get to this place. You're extrovert, right? Yeah.
I think most people would think so.
My wife is an extreme introvert. And so
we did that test, and she got 22 out of 24 for being an introvert, and I got 3.
That's me. That's us. Just the opposites. But I think that silent Saturday, that idea of the silence that comes on Saturday and being okay with it. And I love, your insight into Joseph of Arimathea is so interesting because he takes the hope that died on the cross. He takes his faith that died on the cross, but he remained faithful with what he did have, which was the tomb. And contact and relationships. And I mean, you go off on this, but like he brings it. You have a book, right? And
keep going.
You just go. But he brings it and he uses it. And he invites God into it. And he has no idea that the greatest miracle ever experienced is going to happen in that space that he dedicates to the Lord.
Sure. Sure. Just think about him when he turns up in the next morning. There are only 16 verses. He never speaks. He's in all 4 Gospels. And nobody tells us what happened. But he must have gone when they said, hey, look, someone's been messing with your tomb. He must have gone and thought, oh,
yes.
I buried him that.
Yeah. What am I going to do now?
It cost, several $100,000. Because what he did was, I think one of the great lessons, also for this time, is he buddied up with Nicodemus. And we should learn the importance of partnership. Joseph didn't do it alone. He went to Nicodemus and said, mate, could we share the costs? This is quite something to bury him. And Nicodemus, who was also a silent disciple, Joseph was a silent disciple. He feared the Jews, so he sort of held it to himself. Nicodemus came to Jesus by night, like so many of us. We don't really want to come clean too early. But those two formed a partnership. When you think about it, this is what we're seeing worldwide. Guys are struggling in, my startup from last year, but someone in the church has got some capital, believes in the startup, may be able to partner with them. We need to discover these new sort of partnerships that are powerful. There's a power in partnership, which we need to rediscover. And it's one of the exciting things of what we are going to discover, that we can actually, work together. Because, here's 2 things. One, the church has always rather thought that it was separate from the pathology of the world, that the world would sort of suffer and it would have, that's because you're all a whole bunch of sinners. Actually, we've now realized we're all sinners because this virus is making no distinction. Our prime minister in intensive care.
Yes.
And a friend of ours, a 26-year-old, has died. It's indiscriminate. And we're facing death, which was the taboo subject, for the first time.
Yeah.
In the world. We're talking about it, and people are asking questions. Well, where is your God?
Yeah.
Quite a complicated question.
Yes.
Hey, great, Darren.
No, I think this is so good. I want to maybe talk about this, but this perhaps I haven't thought of. And I watched a short video that you did on this, but the importance of partnerships. And I think it's interesting that you say that, because you're right. In this moment, I'm just thinking our church, we got a text from a friend who's an ER doctor. His wife's like, my husband's not eating during his shifts, and when he does the overnight shifts, nobody's dropping off food. And so we're like, hey, why don't we partner with a local coffee shop restaurant? We will fund breakfast and coffee, or like food and coffee. And we put it out there, and we have like over 1,000, I think it's like nearly 1,000 meals. So like we just have people from all over just doing, it's decentralized, just helping a local coffee shop. So that coffee shop is staying in business. They're so thankful. And now the healthcare professionals at the 2 major hospitals are stoked. And I know other places are starting to do this, other churches and coffee shops and restaurants. And we're beginning to partner and work together. So you're keeping businesses afloat. But I think that's really good. Like,
is there creative partnerships that God wants to align right now in the world and in the church to keep companies work afloat and working together in ways you never thought? And there's a humility that's required for that. Like, would you speak into that? What do you need for partnerships to work and flourish as you're thinking about?
You have to have people who link people up. You need to be able to say, I can't do it alone. Because so many people are driving entrepreneurial. I want to carry on, I want to do it. I want, all the equity for myself. I understand that. I think sometimes you have to share.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to, if you, there's an old saying, sometimes if you want to have a friend, you have to play with his toys as well. You've got to show some interest in someone else's life. So I think that there is that. There's also for the churches, partnerships. The tribes are breaking. I think this is force the tribes to break. And I understand every tribe in the church needs red meat. They have their own ways of singing, their own ways of doing it. The world doesn't draw a distinction as to whether you're Catholic, Pentecostal, Baptist, or whatever you are. The world understands us by our work, not by our worship.
Wow.
When you're sending your pizza or whatever you're sending, sure, it's not a pizza, some very
burritos.
Californian.
No, burritos.
Yeah. When you're doing that, the world understands it. Understand the work. It don't understand the worship.
Yes.
Of course, we understand that the work cannot grow unless it grows out of worship. That we understand, but that's not for the world to understand.
Wow, that is so good. You see in this moment tribes breaking down and coming together. I mean, that perhaps could be a really significant thing. Where
we suddenly discovered that how much do you really need to know that you're a Christian? How much of the stuff that it had? And particularly a younger generation. Want to smell the coffee, want to see, is this thing real and does it work?
Yes.
And now we're beginning to see it working. The church is working. I want to be part of this group. We will discover communities we've never discovered before.
Yes.
And the digital divide that people have had before, which is, we've got to be physical. And then the others will say, no, we've got to be virtual. I'm gaming with my friend in Korea. He's my buddy. I'm very close to that person. Don't worry, I haven't started Fortnite yet, but I will.
What game are you playing? I'm assuming chess.
I don't think it's chess, but whatever it is, I think that divide is breaking, and that the clicks and bricks going to come together in a way we don't know yet, and it is silly to assume. That we can either go back to where we were or that we're going to stay in this wonderful virtual space.
Yeah.
We're discovering a new way.
Yeah.
Equally, the gospel is going throughout the world, reaching every tribe, every nation, as we've never had time before. You think about it, Gutenberg and his Bible, how many people could afford it?
Yeah.
Just think about travel. How many people could afford travel? But the real cost of travel, the real cost of communication is next to nothing now.
Yes.
It's an unbelievable gift that we have for our generation. Unbelievable.
Wow. This is, so it does feel a bit exciting to see it with that optimistic, hopeful lens. And also just that perspective that God is in it and he's there grieving with the loss and he's weeping, and it's like, I think the illustration of Jesus going to heal Lazarus is perhaps another great metaphor for what's happening, where he's grieving the loss, but also there's a miracle on its way. And I think that you're right. Like this idea of unity in the church, partnership in the church and outside, and creative connection where, there's no divide of secular sacred. It's all sacred.
Sure. And just take I don't know whether you're familiar with Unite 714. And this is a remarkable movement. 2 weeks old, hit the website, started in the States. There's obviously the Great 2 Chronicles 7:14 scripture, an amazing prophetic word to bring it to a contemporary moment, taking the moment. I was talking about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, every second leader that you can imagine, and I hope you and some of your guys will sign up as well, have said, yes, it's right. We called a group of us together. I called them together on Friday. We sensed it was God. We're praying at 7:14 in the morning, and 7:14, and you've disturbed me because I couldn't pray because I was talking to you. For the prayer from 2 Chronicles, if my people who are called by my name, which you know so well. So I think, and that is across all the tribes. I mean, it's a coming together. And in the words of that great United song, you know, he will walk us through the other side.
Yes,
I believe that, and that is going to be a very remarkable time if we gather our praying now, pray intently now. He will heal our land.